Hi ladies, welcome back. This is the Tara Grimes podcast with yours truly, the menopause fat loss expert. Welcome everybody to today's podcast, and today I have a very special person with me called Jen Rolwich. Jen is one person that's really made me look at myself and my own coaching skills, and anyone who's listening out there who's my client, Jen has been a part of your success as well because she has helped our team help you. So Jen, I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce yourself. Where you go.
Amazing, thank you so much for having me. My name is Jen Rolwich. My specialism these days is I teach health and fitness coaches how to get guaranteed transformational results for their clients by teaching them all of the things about the human brain and how people work that they are not taught in traditional health and fitness education. That's what I spend most of my time doing, and I base that on my background as a brain-based behaviour change coach. So I use principles of neuroscience to support people to change the way they think, that ultimately changes what they believe, that then helps them to change the way that they behave. And I've been doing that in the context of the health and fitness space now for 3.5 years, which has flown by. But previously I worked as a team and leadership consultant and for organisations. So basically wherever there was people and a problem, I was set in to fix it. So any job that I've done over my whole career over the last 10 years has really just been focused on people, how they think and how they behave. Anything to do with the brain, I'm interested.
Well, look, as I said, I think for your programme Build to Coach with Mark Strathern I don't think there's anything else out there in the marketplace, but the reason we recruited you guys in the first place was because we're dealing with menopausal women. Our target sort of average age is probably about 50, and we all hear the same thing time and time again, and I hear it as a coach. I know what to do, Tara, but I don't know how to do it. And as a coach, we would be remiss, myself and Damien, to think that we could throw a diet plan, a calorie reduction, fire protein and a couple of steps and think that you're going to fix someone, because you don't. And we realise very much that our clients are bringing with them every diet that they've done in their life, all the years that they've grown up maybe in a home with different experiences, life with different experiences, and they're bringing all those things to that moment in time where they've reached out to me for help. So as a coach and having a coaching team, it's important for us that we give our client what they need without overstepping the mark to becoming therapist or psychotherapist, because we are not that. We are nutritionists, we are personal trainers, but we're also, I think, we're not helping our clients if we don't help their behaviour change, which is key. So we want them to leave our programme and know exactly how to live with their new leaner, lighter weight forever, and understand how their brain works and why they do what they do, to help them facilitate their own lifelong change. So Jen, I suppose kicking off here, and we'll get straight into it, one of the things that a lot of clients say to me, well, I know what to do. I spent 20 years dieting. I'm on the diet, I'm off the diet. There's 3 probably major things. I put a poll up last week on my Instagram story, and there was 3 general. It all came down to about 3 general things. I know what to do, but I just can't sustain it. I am an emotional eater. I love my food, I love my drink, and I really over snacking. I'm all or nothing, or I'm all in, as we talk about gear 5, and then I'm complete binge. I restrict myself so much I binge, or I can't stop snacking in the evening. So there's general patterns there of behaviour with women who know what they have to do, who get so frustrated and they bounce about calories, they diet hop. It's like shiny object syndrome for dieters. Susan in the office is doing a diet. She's losing weight twice as quick as Mary. And Mary's saying, well, my diet's not working. I think I'll bounce on to Susan's here. Talk us through where this all, the whole concept of, I suppose, where you see this as a specialist, Jen.
Okay, so while I can relate to all of that so much on a personal level, I think a lot of why I do what I do really comes down to the fact that I was that person for so much of my life, and still do battle. This is the thing that I tell people all of the time. I live with a binge eating disorder for most of my 20s, and the thing is that I tell people this all the time. You are never cured from this, right? This is never something, if you are expecting to go into what I would call a holistic health journey, right? Like what you in the coaching team do, which is looking at the whole person, right? And understanding weight loss in the context of the person and their life, and navigating menopause and navigating other limitations to the process, right? The scientific process. I tell people this all the time, there is no such thing as a cure or a secret or one thing that makes this possible, right? It is a compounding effect of the decisions that you make and the behaviours that you adopt over time, right? And what is often preached across the industry is consistency. The reason why I do what I do, and a huge issue that I think that so many people find when interpreting what will create success in a health and fitness journey, is the perception of what needs to be done versus what actually has to be done. But the blame is always put back on the person, and this is what I always really battled with personally, where anytime I sought help, I was told it was my fault. You just don't want it enough, right? You're lazy, you're greedy, you need to work harder, right? You're not working hard enough. And I remember always thinking to myself, when I look at my life and the life that I've created, I experienced abuse from the age of 16, right? So I have a long-standing, experience of trauma, mental health issues. I spent a lot of time in therapy. I carved out a really successful career for myself. I was the youngest promoted. I was the youngest person. My team had 3 promotions in 2 years. I have 2 degrees, and I was looking at my whole life and I was going, how? This is not a life that's reflective of a lazy person that doesn't like hard work, right? So I was like, how can these personal trainers be telling me that I'm lazy and greedy and don't want it enough? If I don't want it enough, why have I spent my whole life trying to get it? And this is the question that I will pose with quite a lot of people. Your want or desire is not the issue, because for some people, weight loss is the thing that they have been most committed to their whole life. I ask people this all the time. Losing weight, diet's probably been your longest relationship, right? If you're anything like me, I went my first diet when I was 9 years old, right? I'll be 32 next month. That's over 2/3 of my life that I've spent trying to change the way that my body looks. You think of a 9-year-old child having an awareness level of their body that they think I need to make my body smaller, that's horrifying, right? So when I say this to people quite a lot, and I say, if you didn't want this, you didn't have the desire for this, you didn't have the drive for this, if you were to bring together all of the periods of success that you've had in certain diets, right? If I were to bring together all the periods of success that I've had, even if I've not managed to sustain them, and bring them all together, then even though I haven't achieved that end result, end goal, which by the way, I don't think exists either, even if I haven't achieved that thing, because I've not been able to sustain it, look at all the collective time within that you have been successful, right? How much evidence do you have that although you might not have been able to sustain the goal or sustain the end result, stack up and count up all that time you have had that's been successful through all of these processes, and recognise that the end result doesn't signify success, right? The commitment, the willingness, the ability to dust yourself off and keep going, and honestly, most importantly for me, the context in which you manage to do these things, right? Like Susan for the work, might be like absolutely smashing her diet and you feel like a failure in comparison, but what's the context of your life, right? Are you raising children? Are you running a house? Are you in a high pressure job? Are you caring for a parent, right, who's maybe, transitioning into care, or your siblings don't help and you're left with the burden? And I think that so often, especially for women, we just expect so much of ourselves beyond what is humanly possible, that we have this inherent built-in system of believing that there is failure here, right? Like there is something that I'm doing, because if I go all in my diet, the kids suffer because they don't want to eat the diet food, and then they end up eating chicken nuggets because I can't be bothered cooking 4 different meals, right? Or I'm in the cabbage soup, I can't make the kids the cabbage soup because the cabbage soup isn't nutritious. You'd never dream of feeding it to your kids, right? You'd never dream of putting your kids on a special K diet because you think, oh no, They need a nutritious, balanced meal. Of course I want them to have a good dinner, I want them to be feeling satisfied, but you're different. You deserve less. You deserve to be put back. And I just think for women, it is bred into us from such a young age that a child who goes on a diet at 9 years old and a woman who's navigating menopause and a diet in her 50s are the same person, looking for the same thing. And we wonder why these approaches and these decisions that we make that come from an inherent place of dislike never actually work. So my whole perspective on this is that these beliefs that people have, I know what I need to do, that I just can't seem to do it, right? Put the blame back to you. I'm all or nothing. I'm either all in or I'm all out. There's the blame back in me again, right? And I think to myself, and I say this to women particularly all the time, if you couldn't blame yourself for this, who would you blame? If you couldn't apportion blame to anyone or anything for this process being difficult, what would you do? If nobody could take responsibility for this, what would you do next? Right? Because we're so default to that guilt, that not doing enough, that not giving it enough of myself, that like we are so accepting of the blame, we just allow ourselves to live with the blame and live with the shame. And I think to myself, God, how different could it be for us if dieting wasn't just an expected part of what we do and who we are?
It's funny you said there, Jen, you know, the longest relationship people have been in has been in a dieting relationship. And that really struck a chord with me, because for most of my clients, they have been in a diet relationship longer than they've probably been in their marriage. And the frustration and almost the self-hate. Why can I not do this? Because most of the clients who I coach are extremely successful in every other area of their life. They are thriving. But, you know, it's just one nut they can't crack. A client said to me the other day, she says, I'm like Oprah. She says, I've got everything. She says, I've got everything. She says, but I just don't have the body that I want. Why, Tara? Why?
And it's interesting because when I ask people, like, okay, so say I handed you today the body that you wanted, right? What would be the first thing that would undo it tomorrow? So what would be the first thing in the way that you live your life, the way that you make decisions, what would be the first thing that put that dream body at risk, right? Because this is the reality, right? We will never stop desiring a certain physique or a certain way of looking, nor should we. This is another huge misbelief that I see happen quite a lot with people who fall into the anti-diet camp, right? I also disagree with that perspective of you should never diet and you should never set a specific goal with how you want to look, because remember, we correlate how we look with how we feel, right? So the reality is that I know when I'm eating well, when I'm training well, I feel better, and those things facilitate fat loss, right? So both can be true. And I don't think that we should ever try and work on removing a desire to look a certain way or feel a certain way. But the best place that I think we can always start with is the current reality, to see if I did have that, right, what would I do with it? If I had this dream body, what would undo that for me? What would sabotage it for me? What would be the thing that put the dream body at risk? And 9 times out of 10, for what I find with busy, successful women particularly, is it's absolutely nothing to do with the food that they put in their mouth. That's the last part, right? It's what are all of the decisions that I make before it comes to food? What are all of the decisions that I have to make on a daily basis, right? If I followed you around for a day and I watched you and I took note of every single decision that you made, how many decisions have you made before you've made one that impacts yourself? When you get up in the morning, you're getting the kids ready for school, or you're getting yourself up and out and ready for work. You're sitting on washings, you're making sure the house is tidy, you're trying to do dishes so you're not coming home to a sink full of dishes. You go to load the dishwasher, nobody's emptied the clean ones for last night, so you can't put the dirty ones in, house up there, right? You go to get milk for your coffee, there's no milk. You sit in traffic getting to work. People are phoning you and emailing you, looking for you before your day has even started. You have a whole busy day at work where you are responsible for every single thing. You get home, right? What are the kids eating? What's partner eating? My husband knows that the question what is for dinner is banned in our household. I ain't answering that decision, and I ain't making that decision for you. You're a grown man, you can do it, right? Irritates me, sends me off my head. So this is what I say to people all of the time is, by the time it gets to the point in the day in which you want to start making decisions for yourself, your brain is so fatigued from making decisions all day, there is not the energy availability to do the thing, not decide the details of how you will do the thing, right? So we're instantly put in this position, or we're instantly put at a disadvantage around not only even making good decisions for ourselves or doing the right thing, but actually having the mental availability to think about your options and think about the things that you will do. And instantly we're on the back foot, right? Instantly we're in this position of not only is there no availability to do the thing, there's no availability to even think about the thing. So what I will spend a lot of time doing with people, first and foremost, people who are looking to change behaviour, changing your behaviour is actually the last step of behaviour change. Maintenance really is the last stage, but the actual change, the behaving in the new way, is the second last step, right? We have to do so much preparation work around the way you think first and foremost, right? So how do you think about yourself? I really find sometimes a lot for people personally, things like affirmation, saying things to myself in the mirror, ain't going to work for me. It's too woo woo, right? Don't like it. I'm a science girl, right?
I hear you. I'm the same.
Right? However, I do recognise that the language that we use will determine our perspective in certain situations, right? So, for example, I'll say to people, when you wake up in the morning and something happens, do you then brand that as good or bad day, right? So say you wake up in the morning, your alarm didn't go off, bad day, right? You go to load the dirty dishes in the dishwasher, nobody emptied it from last night, bad day. You go to make a coffee and the milk's gone off, bad day. And all of a sudden, your filtration system in the brain then looks for everything that correlates with this is a bad day. So I tell people to think about your belief system as like a sieve. When you're passing things through the sieve, the only things that will get through are the things that fit. So if your belief system is this is a bad day, you're not going to notice the person that held the door open for you. You're not going to notice the person that was nice to you at the Starbucks drive-thru, right? You're not going to notice the thing that your child was saying to you in the morning that was kind. You won't notice those things because the bad day filter is on, right? You won't notice your partner telling you to have a nice day at work. Those things become disregarded because they don't fit the filter, right? So immediately our thinking will then impact what we believe to be true, right? So then the belief system kicks in. I think that this is a bad day, and because I think that it's a bad day, I'm going to make the decision here and now, I'm not going to get anything done. This is a bad day, therefore I need to just focus on these things. This is a bad day, therefore, right? And that's what impacts the behaviour. So it's nothing to do with you not getting the thing done, and everything to do with what were the thoughts that reinforced the belief system that this was not the day to get things done, right? That has a much larger impact than the behaviours themselves, right? So this isn't about I didn't have time to get to the gym. That may well be true, right? And nobody's ever disregarding that and saying there are days where you genuinely would have that time, right? But what were you thinking about the gym in the morning when you decided it was a bad day, right? What were you thinking about it? What were you telling yourself about it, right? Do you have a belief that actually this isn't something that's possible for you, or this might not be something that works for you, right? Do you have those lingering thoughts? And these are so hard to shift. I am still fighting them all these years later around that diet mentality. Well, actually, do you know what? I could just skip a meal and then there's no point going to the gym anyway, right? Because I don't need to go to the gym, really. So if I just skip lunch, it'll be like I've gone to the gym, right? And when you've been a lifelong dieter, that is the mentality that you're fighting against. So when you're trying to create new pathways in the brain that help you to behave in a different way, your old pathways are fighting up against those, going, pick me, choose me, right? And if you're having a bad day, it's so much easier to default to the old way, right, than try and do a new thing. And this goes for so many things in our life. Like I was speaking to my friend recently who's potty training her wee boy, and she was like, it would just be so much easier to say, not today, just stick him in a nappy, right? Because the system is so default, you don't have to think about it, right? Whereas building any new process, any new behaviour, takes continued awareness and commitment, not only to the behaviour itself, but the way of thinking and what you notice and how you set up your environment to be conducive with that, right? And for them, it's making sure they carry a potty every time they walk out the front door, right? And this goes for anything new that we're trying to establish. So when I speak to people about these things that you'd mentioned, like, I know what I need to do, I just can't seem to do it, I'm all or nothing. These are all examples of thinking distortions. And when we are experiencing thinking distortions, we believe that the distorted thinking is true, but we don't always necessarily have evidence to back it up, because we've often not attempted to create new evidence in line with a different way of thinking. So whenever people are thinking in these ways, what I will discourage is, let's just try and do something different. What I will encourage is, okay, let's try and think differently on this first before we do anything, right? If we think about all or nothing, can we instead think about all or something, right? So what is your definition of nothing? A lot of people's definition of nothing often contains a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
I say to people, what is a day of nothing for you, right? A day of nothing for me would be lying on the couch watching the telly, not moving, right? I speak to some people and their day of nothing is stacked, right, with things. So this is about understanding for you, what does all look like? What does nothing look like? Can I intervene my nothing with something, but most importantly, can I make peace with it? Thinking distortions are not necessarily about what you end up doing, but actually how you think about what you're doing. And this is something that will prevent quite a lot of people from not even just achieving consistent behaviours, but consistent ways of thinking.
Yeah.
Because they will have that thought of, well, if I do any less, then it's pointless. There's no point in doing it because it won't give me what I need. So I'm better off doing nothing. And you think, when you say that out loud, you're like, that makes no sense.
Yeah, and I always notice with a lot of clients too, you're constantly talking them off the ledge, because they have, they don't get their steps in for maybe 2 or 3 days in a row, and it's catastrophic thinking, I can't do this. Or they end up snacking at night and eating 300 or 400 calories in snacks and then not getting their steps in on top of that compound. Oh, well, sure, here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
It's catastrophic thinking. And whilst as a coach you realise that's no big deal, but in their mind of trying to be perfect, it's a big, big deal, because they just throw the baby out with the bathwater then. And as you say, that belief system just kicks back in again.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's not about the isolated behaviour, it's the association of what happens after that. So I tell